Before I start, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd just like to comment on the quality of the debate that we've had. I've been really encouraged that all parts of the House have contributed. We've heard many different views, but this is a reflection too of the conversations I've had around this place over the last few weeks in the run-up to this debate. And I welcome that engagement across the House on all of these points, because at the heart of this, I do believe this is about the Union. It's a question of principle. The Honourable Member for Central Leeds said that this was a bill born out of desperation, not principle, but I would argue exactly the opposite. This starts with principle. For me, this starts with the ruling of the Northern Ireland Court of Appeal that the Acts of Union were subjugated by the Northern Ireland Protocol. It is imperative then, as a point well made by the Right Honourable Member for Lagan Valley, it's imperative then that while we consider issues of trade, while we consider the peace agreements, we also consider the integrity of the Union. All of these are important and each must be addressed, but all can be addressed only if the integrity of the Union underpins them. With regard to trade, this bill restores free movement of goods within the UK. However, it also respects the integrity of the EU single market through the introduction of green and red channels. I would suggest this meets the test set by the Honourable Member of Maidenhead for actually delivering the aims of the bill. Secondly, with regard to governance and jurisdiction, the Honourable Member for Stone mentioned the democratic deficit. In just one moment, the Honourable Member for Stone mentioned the democratic deficit that exists within Northern Ireland. And I would suggest that this bill meets that requirement through rejecting the jurisdiction of the EU and the European Court of Justice, because with that, residents of Northern Ireland have no control over the laws that are set and which must govern them. I'll give way to the Honourable Member.
I thank the honourable member for his point, and if I may just return briefly to the point he made prior to that. At no stage has this government or my party ever called for a hard border on the island of Ireland. That's why we support this solution. But is the honourable member aware that in threatening retaliation, the only people who are now talking about a hard border on the island of Ireland, because if there's a trade war, they will not leave the border unsupervised on the island of Ireland, and they've threatened to remove the right of Northern Ireland companies to trade across the border in those circumstances. That cannot be policed in any other way than on the border itself. So it's now the EU threatening a hard border on the island of Ireland through retaliation, and by extension threatening the Good Friday Agreement.
The Right Honourable Member makes a strong point. I will come on to address that in just a moment within my speech. But I would make the case that this meets perhaps the second test of the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead, the one of reputation, because what self-respecting nation allows itself to be split and to allow part of it to fall under the governance of another unaccountable power? That cannot be the reputation that this union wishes to pursue. Thirdly, the question of the integrity of the United Kingdom. Article 1C on the front of this bill says, "The Act provides that enactments, including the Union with Ireland Act 1800 and the Act of Union Ireland 1800, are not to be affected by provision of the Northern Ireland Protocol." I say that again, Madam Deputy Speaker, not to be affected by the provision of the Northern Ireland Protocol. This, I would suggest, meets the test of legality, because while we might have discussions, as the Honourable Member for Bromley and Chislehurst, Honourable and Learned Member for Bromley and Chislehurst pointed out, there may be questions about necessity, but I would argue, and standing here, my reason for supporting this bill lies in the imperative of what the Court of Appeal said, that the Acts of Union have been subjugated. That is reason enough for me. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Member for Tottenham, when he was challenged, declined to answer if he would change the protocol, what changes he would make, or how they could be delivered. He did, however, make a very good point when he said we must focus on what works. And that, I would suggest, Madam Deputy Speaker, is what this bill is trying to do. A bill that provides a solution, a bill that seeks to address the issues of trade, a bill that respects and seeks to restore cross-community consent, and most importantly, restores the integrity of the UK while at the same time protecting the integrity of the EU single market. This is not a perfect bill. I have concerns about the sweeping powers within it, given to ministers, and I suspect, subject to further debate, and I hope without delay to the rapid progress through this House, those might be considered. However, I will support this bill with enthusiasm, because there is a legal basis for action. As I've said, the Court of Appeal has set that by indicating the Acts of Union have been subjugated, which means that, as the Right Honourable Member for South Swindon said, inaction is not an option. And I would finish then, Madam Deputy Speaker, with this question for Honourable and Right Honourable Members. If that is the case, if our Acts of Union have been subjugated, if, as the Right Honourable Member for Swindon South says, that inaction is not an option, then if not this bill, then what? And if not now, when, to restore the integrity of our Union? Thank you.